In the unforgiving world of professional sports, there are unwritten rules, sacred codes that form the very bedrock of a team. You can have an off night, you can find yourself outmatched by a superior opponent, but the one unforgivable sin, the one line you never ever cross, is turning your back on the people who wear the same jersey. It's an act of betrayal that poisons a locker room and shatters the trust that championships are built on. Yet, in the superheated atmosphere of the 2024 WNBA season, a year when all eyes were on the league thanks to a rookie phenom, one of the game's most respected veterans didn't just cross that line, she blew past it. She was supposed to be the guiding light, the steady hand, for a young superstar carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. Instead, she delivered a stunning masterclass in ego, chaos, and how to detonate your own reputation. DeWanna Bonner wasn't just a disappointment for the Indiana Fever. She became a ghost, a cautionary tale whose actions would reverberate throughout the league. Her mid-season vanishing act was shrouded in mystery and corporate PR spin, leaving fans and teammates alike in a state of confusion and anger. The full, ugly truth remained a closely guarded secret, whispered about in hushed tones, until one of her own teammates, Sophie Cunningham, could no longer stomach the silence. She picked up a microphone, took a deep breath, and exposed a story of shocking unprofessionalism and blatant disrespect that the league and DeWanna Bonner were simply not ready for. When the Indiana Fever officially announced the signing of DeWanna Bonner, it was viewed across the league as a masterful chess move. The timing felt perfect, a strategic strike to bolster their franchise cornerstone. The most anticipated rookie in the history of the sport, Caitlin Clark. This wasn't just acquiring any veteran, this was DeWanna Bonner, a two-time WNBA champion with the Phoenix Mercury, a five-time All-Star, a scoring machine whose resume didn't just whisper Hall of Fame, it screamed it. The narrative was intoxicatingly simple and powerful. The wise, battle-hardened wolf would teach the prodigal young cub how to not only survive, but dominate in the treacherous landscape of professional basketball. The Fever's front office, and indeed the entire city of Indianapolis, allowed themselves to dream. They believed they had secured the critical missing piece, a vocal leader whose championship DNA would stabilize the team and accelerate their journey from lottery team to legitimate contender. The media ran with this storyline, crafting a feel-good tale of a perfect basketball marriage. Bonner herself was the chief architect of this hopeful vision. In her introductory press conferences, she spoke eloquently about her excitement to play alongside Clark, promising to be a source of veteran leadership, experience, and, most importantly, consistent offensive firepower. Her voice, she assured everyone, would be the one to calm the huddles and steer the young core through the turbulent waters of a grueling season. The endorsement from those who knew her seemed to seal the deal. Sophie Cunningham, who had played with Bonner in Phoenix and was now reuniting with her in Indiana, enthusiastically co-signed the move, calling Bonner a hell of a basketball player. Caitlin Clark, with stars in her eyes, told reporters that Bonner's presence was already making a huge impact, that her voice was the loudest and most respected in the locker room. In those initial weeks, the practice facility buzzed with an electric energy. The blueprint for success was laid out for all to see. Clark's generational talent, her limitless range and court vision would be fused with Bonner's seasoned, championship-proven grit. Then, the bright lights of the regular season flickered on, and the meticulously crafted blueprint was instantly set ablaze. The beautiful, hopeful dream dissolved into a harsh, unflattering, and deeply confusing reality. The veteran scorer, who was brought in to be a dependable second option, became an offensive black hole. Game after game, her performance wasn't just underwhelming, it was a statistical catastrophe. Across 9 appearances, she averaged a jaw-droppingly low 7.1 points per night. For a player of her historic caliber, this wasn't a slump. It was a complete and utter collapse. To put it in perspective, she had averaged nearly 18 points just a season prior. Now, she was struggling to make a dent in the game. Her shooting percentages were a nightmare, bricking shots that were once her bread and butter. She managed a meager 3.8 rebounds and 1.6 assists, becoming a ghost on the court long before she vanished from the team entirely. These weren't just numbers on a page. They were a reflection of a deeper issue. The real problem, the one that truly began to corrode the team's spirit, was the vibe. Bonner played with a shocking and palpable lack of urgency. Her body language was a constant broadcast of disinterest and frustration. She jogged back on defense, offered lazy close-outs on shooters, and often seemed completely disconnected from the flow of the game. The fiery competitor who had built a legendary career was gone, replaced by a sullen, indifferent figure. The whispers that started in the upper decks of the arena soon made their way down to the court. Fans who had eagerly bought her jersey felt a sense of buyer's remorse. Teammates, trying to build chemistry on the fly, started exchanging frustrated, questioning glances. The vibrant, positive energy that had defined the preseason had been sucked out of the building, replaced by a thick, awkward, and undeniable tension. The player who was meant to be the glue was actively dissolving it. The situation was untenable and spiraling out of control. The team was losing, and their high-profile veteran acquisition was a major part of the problem. Coach Stephanie White, a respected leader known for her no-nonsense approach, knew she had to intervene. She made the difficult but professionally necessary decision. DeWanna Bonner was being moved to the bench. For a player with Bonner's decorated past and immense pride, it was a public and profound humiliation. This was the critical inflection point, the moment that defines a competitor's character. It should have been a wake-up call, a catalyst for a fierce response. A true leader would have used the demotion as fuel, worked harder in practice, been a vocal supporter from the sideline, and fought to win their spot back, showing the younger players what resilience truly looks like. DeWanna Bonner did none of those things. Instead, she chose a path of passive aggression and ultimate retreat. She simply disappeared. One day, she was on the bench, her face a mask of sulking displeasure. The next, her locker was untouched, her seat on the team plane empty. The organization, thrown into a chaotic scramble, fell back on the most tired and opaque phrase in the sports lexicon. Bonner was away from the team for personal reasons. It was a statement that answered nothing and invited endless speculation. Game after game, her absence loomed over the team. Reporters, smelling blood in the water, relentlessly pressed Coach White for any semblance of an update, but she had none to give. Her press conferences became exercises in frustration as she offered the same hollow, rehearsed lines, her eyes betraying an exasperation that mirrored that of the entire fan base. She was a coach, put in an impossible position, forced to answer for a player who had abandoned her post. The real damage, however, was being done to the young team she left behind. Players like Caitlin Clark, already navigating the immense pressure of being the new face of the league, were now forced to be spokespeople for a baffling situation they didn't understand. The veteran rock she was promised had crumbled into dust, leaving only silence and a void of leadership at the worst possible time. As days bled into weeks, and weeks agonizingly stretched into a month, the personal reasons narrative became utterly unbelievable. It was a flimsy shield that could no longer hide the truth. Whispers turned into loud conversations across the league, and a new, more cynical rumor began to solidify. Bonner wasn't just taking a personal break, she was actively engineering her escape. The word was she wanted to get back to the Phoenix Mercury, her former team, and was willing to sabotage her situation in Indiana to make it happen. The audacity was breathtaking. And just as the story seemed destined to remain a messy mix of insider gossip and fan speculation, the entire charade was blown to smithereens. The explosion came from the most credible and shocking source imaginable, one of her own. Sophie Cunningham, Bonner's teammate in both Phoenix and Indiana, a player who respected her history but could no longer respect her actions, decided that the truth needed a voice. On her podcast, Show Me Something, she broke the sacred, unwritten code of the locker room. In professional sports, what happens behind closed doors is supposed to stay there. But this, Sophie decided, was a betrayal that nullified that code. She wasn't some outsider or media pundit. She was there. She saw it all. With a calm and devastating honesty, Cunningham laid the truth bare for the entire world to hear. Bonner wasn't just unhappy. She wasn't just struggling. She had quit on them. Sophie confirmed the worst fears of the fans and the team. DeWanna Bonner had not said a single word to her teammates. No face-to-face meeting, no phone call, not even a simple text message. She had just ghosted them. The player who was paid a small fortune to be a leader had packed her bags in the dark of night and deserted her team, leaving them to clean up the professional and emotional wreckage she left in her wake. The betrayal wasn't just a rumor anymore. It was a confirmed, undeniable fact. Sophie Cunningham's podcast revelations went far beyond a simple confirmation of Bonner's departure. It was a detailed and damning anatomy of a selfish exit, a character indictment delivered by someone who had a front row seat. With surgical precision, Sophie peeled back the layers of disrespect. She drove straight at the financial heart of the matter, highlighting the staggering hypocrisy of Bonner's actions. She reminded her listeners that Bonner had willingly signed a contract and accepted a large sum of money from the Indiana Fever, a figure reported to be around $80,000. "You took 80 grand from the Indiana Fever," Sophie stated on her show, her tone a potent mix of bewilderment and righteous anger. The message was unmistakable. Bonner had taken the money, but refused to do the job. She had cashed the checks while conspiring to abandon the organization that wrote them. But perhaps the most powerful and resonant part of Sophie's testimony was its focus on the lack of basic human decency. She wasn't asking for a tearful apology or a grand farewell. She articulated the absolute bare minimum of professional courtesy that Bonner had so casually disregarded. "I also think that it's okay to be professional about it," Sophie explained, laying out a simple, respectful alternative. And send a text to your teammates. Send a text and be like, "Hey, love you guys." Or you don't even have to say "love you guys." Just "Hey, sorry this didn't work out. Good luck." That was the bar. A simple text message. A 10-second gesture of acknowledgement for the women she had shared a locker room with, for the rookie phenom she was supposed to be mentoring, for the coaches and staff who had invested their time and energy in her. The fact that Bonner couldn't, or wouldn't, even clear that incredibly low bar spoke volumes. In an age of instant and constant communication, the choice to remain silent was a deliberate and deeply insulting act. It painted a vivid portrait of an individual so consumed by her own circumstances that she lost all perspective on her responsibilities to others. Sophie's words redefined Bonner's image across the league. She wasn't a sympathetic figure or a struggling veteran anymore. She was a quitter who had treated her teammates with stunning contempt. The narrative was set. The battle lines were drawn. The stage was prepared for one of the most volatile, emotionally charged regular season games in recent memory. On September 30th, 2024, DeWanna Bonner walked back into Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, the scene of her professional crime. But this time, she was an invader, draped in the enemy colors of the Phoenix Mercury. The moment her sneakers hit the hardwood for pre-game warm-ups, the betrayal felt by the city of Indianapolis was unleashed in a raw, visceral roar, a tidal wave of boos, loud, sustained, and filled with genuine anger, cascaded down from every section of the arena. This wasn't the half-hearted jeering reserved for a typical rival. This was personal. This was a unified chorus of thousands of fans who felt they had been conned, their hopes sold and then abandoned. The sound was deafening, an echo of their collective disgust. Every time Bonner so much as touched the basketball, the arena exploded in a fresh wave of hostility. Every dribble was punctuated by jeers, every shot attempt met with a unified prayer for failure. The energy in the building was venomous, a public trial playing out under the bright lights. The fans were acting as judge, jury, and executioner, making it unequivocally clear that her actions had consequences, and forgiveness was not on the table. Bonner, for her part, tried to appear unfazed, but the sheer force of the animosity was impossible to ignore. This was more than a game. It was a reckoning. She had made her choice, and now she was forced to stand in the fire she had started. The Fever players, meanwhile, fed off the energy, a silent bond forming between them and their fans. They knew the city had their back. While a tempest of boos swirled around Bonner on the court, the most fascinating and revealing moments were unfolding on the sidelines and beyond. Caitlin Clark, sidelined with a groin injury, was unable to exact her own revenge, but she had a front row seat to the spectacle, and her reaction became a story in itself. As the crowd mercilessly roasted her former mentor, the television cameras zoomed in on Clark's face. She was beaming, grinning from ear to ear, with an expression of pure, unadulterated joy. She wasn't just watching, she was participating. When the Fever's swarming defense forced Bonner into a turnover, Clark was the first person to leap off the bench, her fists pumping in celebration. She was her team's biggest and most enthusiastic cheerleader, her raw emotion, telling a story that no post-game interview ever could. This was catharsis. This was personal validation. Her unrestrained delight was a clear and powerful message to the world about how she and the entire Fever locker room truly felt about Bonner's unprofessional exit. It was the ultimate silent statement. As if the drama needed another villain, Bonner's fiancée, Alyssa Thomas, decided to pour gasoline on the fire. From the comfort of her own home, the Connecticut Sun star took to social media to taunt the Fever fans, mocking them and suggesting Bonner had left a lesser organization for a real team. The disrespect was breathtaking, particularly given Thomas's own history of complaining about harsh treatment from that very same fan base. Her actions were a masterclass in tone-deaf provocation. Yet, the contrast in class was stark. While Thomas engaged in petty online squabbles, the Indiana Fever organization conducted themselves with unwavering professionalism. Coach White and her players faced the media circus with grace, focusing their comments on their team's performance, their hard-fought victory, and their resilient culture, refusing to be dragged down into the mud. They let their actions on and off the court do all the talking. In the end, the night unfolded like a perfectly scripted drama of poetic justice. DeWanna Bonner, the decorated veteran who had sulked her way out of town over a benching, delivered a performance that was not just bad, but humiliatingly invisible. In 21 minutes of court time, under the hostile gaze of the fans she had scorned, she managed a pathetic 4 points on a dismal 1-for-4 shooting. She was a complete non-factor, a ghost on the court, effectively erased by the focused and determined defense of the teammates she had abandoned. The Indiana Fever, on the other hand, played with a joy, energy, and cohesive chemistry that had been conspicuously absent during the Bonner saga. They moved the ball with purpose, they celebrated each other's success, and they walked away with a resounding and deeply satisfying 107-101 victory. This was more than just a win in the standings. It was a powerful statement. It was closure. It was the validation of a culture built on respect and accountability over individual ego. When the final buzzer echoed through the cheering arena, the verdict was absolute. Bonner's turbulent chapter in Indiana had concluded in the most embarrassing way imaginable. Sophie Cunningham's podcast had laid the truth bare, but this game was the live demonstration for the entire league to see. Every missed shot by Bonner, every defensive stop by the Fever, every deafening roar from the crowd served as an undeniable reminder of the consequences of betrayal. The fans witnessed more than a basketball game. They witnessed justice. They saw a locker room that had been disrespected stand tall, unite, and send a powerful message without uttering a single word. Bonner had left seeking greener pastures, but her return to Indianapolis proved to be a brutal reality check. Her betrayal, paradoxically, became the catalyst that forged the Fever's new identity, proving that addition by subtraction is one of the most powerful forces in sports.